Um, we are the 5th of September, and I would like to make a video for Apollonian Germ that I know he won't watch probably the video when I publish this, but maybe that's the last video that I publish on this channel for Apollonian Germ. I just will summarize what I have been trying to communicate but failed, and yeah. This is a okay, no, yeah. We see. This is my view of globalism and the reason why I have been making videos for you, Apollonian Germ. I will briefly comment, and depending on the time and the circumstances, I might talk about more personal issues at the end of the video. But right now, I will comment this drawing. Okay, so there are the 3 moments which are logical moments, what the writings of Hegel call speculative logic, or dialectics in a way. Abstract, negation, concrete. I will comment very briefly, and then I will go into more detail. The ignorant people, this is what usually people in ordinary language call the normies. Globalism is an ideology which is made manifest through institutions, politics, economics, the media, culture, academia, language, etc., etc., but mostly the political institutions, and it is a negation of the ordinary state of being of the ordinary people, because it tries to bring about a universal state, or the ideology of a universal citizen. We are all citizens of the world, and it tries to detach the ignorant people from their roots, from their tie, they're bound to the history, to a culture, to their own people, to a soil, to a tradition, etc. So that's why it is abstract in a way. It promotes, I will show this on the board, the other side of the board, but it promotes an abstract universality, in the sense that it is incomplete, it is one-sided, it's a universality with no roots, no ties, no attachment, no knowledge, no whatever. It's abstract. And this movement, globalism, we can date globalism back to the end of the Second World War, or you can say the 1960s with the immigration policy, depending on the determinacy that you choose, that you pick up. Globalism, either it started with the universal, the global institutions at after the Second World War, or one might say communism is a primitive form of globalism, capitalism is an economic globalism, Christianity is religious globalism, the Jewish monotheism is primitive globalism, whatever. But politically, it's really the second half of the 20th century. But this abstraction of globalism, because it tries to uproot, to abstract, to negate the peoples, mostly in the West, it brings about its own negation. This is a logical moment. What is abstract, because it is lacking, because it is one-sided, because it is incomplete, turns into the negation of itself, into its opposite. And the negation of globalism is what we have been witnessing mostly over the past 10 years, thanks to the spread of the internet and the social media and alternative media. But actually there have been attempts to negate globalism, depending on how one defines globalism, one could say that it depends. But if we say globalism is the ideology which has emerged in the second half of the 20th century, and especially it intensifies since the 1970s and 80s with immigration, with the political unification of Europe through the European Union, depending on the determinacy. But let us say the negation has occurred, has intensified, and what is intensive is also extended, so it is becoming widespread. I will not give up on my categories as long as I can speak peacefully. Yeah, so the abstract, the one-sided aspect of globalism brings about its own inner negation, which is what people call the red pill, or the revolt of the masses, populism, the rise of patriotism, nationalism, whatever. But what I fail to communicate is that this negation, it is not external to globalism. It is a moment of globalism because it is logical, because globalism is abstract, and what is abstract, because it is empty, negates itself. So the patriots and the nationalists, they think that they revolt against globalism, but it is implied in the concept, here in the Hegelian sense, because abstract negation concrete is the movement of the concept. I'm starting to understand. It is in the very concept of globalism that the people, here the ignorant people, shall revolt against globalism. And that's what the people do not understand. And that's why I have been trying to communicate with you for many years now and many months, because I believe that you were maybe one of the select few that, given the circumstances, could understand this. Namely, the red pill. Let us simplify to the utmost. It consists in gathering universal knowledge on the internet, knowledge about economics, like libertarian economics, as opposed to the socialist destructionism promoted by the globalists. Knowledge about evolutionary psychology, how they manipulate the masses, and how evolutionary psychology can help one understand oneself, etc. Knowledge about IQ, about anthropology, the behavior of the various racial or ethnic groups. Knowledge about politics. It begins as the study of politics in America in the 21st century, or the study of politics in England, but actually it is, because the particular contains within itself the universal, it brings about knowledge about universal determinations of thought and theories, and yeah. So the red pill process is a process which consists unconsciously, for those who embark upon it, on gathering knowledge, because people are starting to realize that they are losing. They don't even know what they are losing because they were ignorant, but they that's why there is the arrow here. The ignorant people, by revolting against those who try to negate them abstractly, by replacing them, by dumbing them down, by impoverishing them, by making them dependent, whatever, the ignorant people, they revolt and they gather knowledge unconsciously about all the determinations of being, subjektiver Geist, objektiver Geist, etc. I made countless videos, I will not repeat, but whatever. And what happens is that the people who revolt, they start to have spiritual experiences. And there are very few people, I mean, there are many people who have had spiritual experiences and shared them on the internet. I've published documents with colors to show, but the only people that I understand, there are maybe half a dozen, are those who have embarked upon the red pill path, the path of the negative, and who have had spiritual experiences after having accumulated knowledge. This is the distinction between the knowledge of der Verstand, which is one-sided, abstract, and the knowledge of speculative knowing, which is mystical, which is a unity of opposed determination. That's why the people that I understand the most are Apollonian Germ, Stella, Caroline, and Hyperboreans reflections, because they have gone through the same path, and they have, except Apollonian Germ as of now, they have had mystical, spiritual experiences, and I can understand why, because it's logical in a way. So yeah, they start to have spiritual experiences, but they do not realize, and that's what I have been trying to communicate, that their spiritual experiences make them very knowledgeable, very powerful, and that by revolting against the globalist, they acquire knowledge that the globalists themselves do not possess. Because they are kind of the mirror, and the mirror knows more about oneself sometimes than oneself knows about oneself. So the patriots and the nationalists, etc., they are the mirror of the globalists. And that's why, and the opposite is true also as well, but actually it's more this in this side. But basically, what I've been trying to communicate, and I have failed, and yeah, but whatever, that the people who go on the red pill path, they really become smarter than most, if not eventually all, the globalists. Because that's, I deluded myself, but most of the people who serve globalism, the politicians, the scholars, the bankers, the journalists, etc., they are kind of dumb. That's why they are partly innocent or completely innocent, because they don't know what they are doing. And those who revolt against this one-sided abstraction, they acquire knowledge and they become smart and they become spiritual. And the new world order is not the globalist who will implement a totalitarian rule. The new world order is those who have rebelled against globalism, the abstract one-sided aspect, who have gathered universal knowledge and who have become concrete, namely the unity of the first two moments, abstract negation. And the new world order is the unity of globalism and patriotic nationalist revolt, namely if most or all the people of the world revolt against globalism by turning back towards their roots, cultural, spiritual, national, traditional, etc., etc., it means that all the people who have revolted against this abstract universality, they will have particularized themselves by acquiring knowledge about their own particular culture. And this, when all the particulars of a universal, namely when all the countries, the universal would be country and the particular would be all the countries who revolt against globalism, when the universal is particularized in all its Bestimmtheiten, it's all particularity. This is the real universal, namely the concrete universal, because if one opposes the abstract universality, namely just a global citizenship, with the particular citizens of all the countries, this is one-sided, this is abstract, this is abstract universality. Real universality, in a Hegelian meaning, in speculative, logical meaning, is concrete universality, namely it is truly universal because it is universal through the mediation of all the particulars. When most or all the countries become aware of their own particular history, knowledge, tradition, religious roots, etc., etc., this is how the abstract universality is made wirklich, concrete, real, whatever. And this is a logical process. So the New World Order is, put it simply, the ignorant people who will have become smart by revolting against those who have tried to steal the knowledge that they were not even aware that they possessed. So that's why the history of countries is being written, and of course, here it can be chronological. Ignorant people meant before the advent of the internet, etc. Very few people were aware of the history of their country, but now, thanks to the development of technology and the internet, most people with an internet connection, with leisure and time, they can acquire knowledge about the history of their country, of their civilization, of their people, their race, their culture, their traditions, etc., etc. The totality of world knowledge is made available on the internet, basically. And by trying to revolt against this abstract one-sided universality, people produce knowledge. This is what I call the phenomenology of Geist. I published many videos about this. So, yeah. And now, this is how the ignorant people become the new world order, and the globalist, here it's a little bit speculative, but I will illustrate. The globalists, they are a product of self-inflicted stupidity, namely those who are in control of the process. I know this. Actually, it's me at my highest level, and since I'm talking to you, Apollonian Germ, I will talk as if there was a you and an I, and there is to some extent, but it is us, the smartest, those who have had spiritual experiences, namely what I call the European gods and goddesses, at least the highest of them. We are in control unconsciously, because by revolting against the one-sided abstraction of globalism, we recover our knowledge, our divine knowledge. Here is where we meet Evola, Philip K. Dick, Plato, the Bible, European mythology, etc., etc., and of course Hegel. And cultural Hegelianism was simply was supposed to be the unity of philosophy, mostly Hegel, there is only one philosophy, religion or mysticism, and pop culture. Yeah. So, basically, here is an idea which I understood 4.5 years ago, but it took me quite a while to understand. The symbol of globalism, from a Western perspective, is Barbara Spectre. And the symbol of the revolt against globalism, from a Western European perspective, is the Austrian painter. But the Austrian painter, which is the negation of globalism, only exists, and here the word exist is important, because existence is that which comes out of the Grund, the fundamental principle. The negation only exists because it comes out of the abstract Grund, the abstract principle. So the abstract and the negation, they are diverse, not in the sense of diversity, they are distinct, verschieden, different, but they are nonetheless united, because without the Austrian uncle, there would be no Barbara Spectre. But without Barbara Spectre, there would be no revival of far-right politics, namely they reciprocally determine one another. That's the idea that I've tried to share, namely Apollonian Germ, and those who follow you. You are totally determined in your behavior, your mindset, your attitudes, your belief, your entire life as a political thinker, one might say, your entire life is determined by globalism. You speak about the globalist, you think about the globalist, you write about the globalist, you read books because you think that it might enable you to understand the globalist. So everything you say or think or do on a universal level, namely your political self or your intellectual self, is determined by globalism. So in a sense, you are not a globalist, but actually you are, because all your determinations, whatever you think, do, believe, is determined in relation to the globalist. So you are completely determined in a way, and I that's one of the problems. Like maybe I am partly your friend, but partly not your friend, because honestly, I admire you, I respect your intelligence, and I would like to be your friend, but I understand Hegel's logic, namely, I cannot appreciate you as the negation of globalism, because if all your determinations, you owe them to the globalist. If I say, Apollonian Germ, I like you, I appreciate you, I want to be your friend, which in a way I do, but I understand Hegel's logic enough to understand that if I say, I want you to be my friend, I have to be friend with the people who enable you to be who you are. Without the globalist, without Barbara Spectre and the elites and the you-know-who's, you would not be who you are. So I would not have encountered you and followed your video and become attracted to you. And the same goes with Caroline, one might say, because Caroline is the person who thinks maybe the most like me, although she's female, but whatever. But Caroline, a part of me loves her in a way, but Caroline is completely a product of globalism. Her entire life has consisted in revolting against globalism. So she denounces the scheming of the elite, Charlemagne, usury, the feudal oppression of Europeans, the manipulation in the pagan community, the Christian oppression of pagans. So I appreciate and I love Caroline in a way, but everything that I love about her as a thinking, as a scholar, one might say, and her personality as well, but she has become who she is because she has revolted against the globalists. So I cannot, when I think abstractly, I love her, like I appreciate you, Apollonian Germ, but this is one-sided in the sense that what I love about you is that you have revolted against the globalists, and if you hadn't, I would never have met you, and I would never have cared about you. So I owe whatever positive I think about you to the negative that I used to think and still do of the globalists, but the two are united in a way. This is very complex, but actually it's very simple. Namely, this is very simple. The people in the far right communities, wherever in the West, Western Europe, Northern America, basically, if they are radical enough, they will start to try to restore the reputation of the Austrian painter by revolting against globalism. But the two are interconnected. Barbara Spectre, this is just a figure of consciousness. She just embodies all the ideas which are opposed to the ideas of the Austrian painter. This is the exact reversal of Germany in the 1930s, basically. This is the exact opposite, but because it is the exact opposite, all the determinations of globalism, they are derived directly from Germany of the past century. So basically, globalism, from the Western perspective, consists in opposing completely the plans of the Germans of the 20th century. But because all the ideology of the globalists is directly derived from that of the German, it is in unity with this. So, of course, in the right-wing community, people hate Barbara Spectre and they love nationalists. But they exist in a conceptual unity. You cannot have one without the other. Without the painter, there would be no Barbara Spectre. That's what some people in the far right think, namely that 20th century was a mistake. If there hadn't been the excesses of the German, the Europeans would not be threatened, etc., etc. That's one way of thinking. But basically, everything that people love, either about Barbara Spectre or about the Austrian painter, is determined by the other. The one is the Grund of the other's existence. Grund und Existenz. Positive and negative. These are logical determinations. And what I fail to communicate, basically, Apollonian Germ. You are a globalist. Basically, here I'm in a mood to laugh, but that's what I've been trying to talk to you. You are the most intelligent. And this will remain true as long as the world exists. You are the most intelligent individual outside of myself, but you have not yet understood the speculative aspect because you haven't had any spiritual experience. But basically, you are a globalist, and you are the what I call the king of objective spirit. Namely, you are the most intelligent person outside of myself, which you are a part of myself in a way. My mind lives in you in a way. You are the king of objective spirit. Namely, you are a member of the new world order because the abstract, negation, and concrete, these are three moments of the same logical totality, the same logical movement. I will comment briefly with a little bit of religious thought. Maybe this is my last video for you because I will make videos on another channel, which I already have. I will talk about this later, but basically, what I know to be the truth, in some way that I don't fully understand, but it is nonetheless the Exegesis by PKD, folder 20. The belief, here I speak as a we, the belief that we are plural forms of God, voluntarily descended to this prison world, voluntarily losing our memory identity, and supernatural powers or faculties, all of which can be regained through anamnesis, which means restoration of memory, or sometimes the mystical conjunction, is one of the most radical religious views known in the West. Yeah. Another folder, folder 20. So basically, Apollonian Germ. I put my effort in trying to convince you but that was a mistake because I should have, but no, I realized this, maybe it's too late. I should have talked to everyone, and eventually you would have gotten my message, and I chose to talk to the select few, and I left aside everyone else. So I shared a very esoteric knowledge, very complex knowledge. I should have simplified, but I was not knowledgeable enough. That's part of the process, whatever. But yeah. The same folder. How can God delude us and also seek to make us lucid, to see properly, unless there is a schism in the Godhead, my yang yin dual God, God with a bright yang side and a dark, deluding, destroying yin deterministic side? What we must do is separate the antithetical aspects somehow, or else he wars against himself, which is possible, but... Okay, there is a conflict within the mind of God, which is eventually the whole of reality. Reality, the world, is kind of the mind of God made manifest. And there is conflict within the mind of God because God is all there is, and there can be no conflict against anything or anyone other than God. And it's complicated. The conflicts between the globalists, the patriots, the New World Order, they are logical, I wouldn't say conflicts, although it takes the form of conflicts in politics and psychology, etc. But these are actually moments of contradictions or the process of evolution within the mind of God, which is speculative, and it's complicated because I understand way too fast in a way. So here is the self-inflicted stupidity. In a sense, the globalists, those who are vaguely aware that there is a globalism, they think that they are almighty and all-powerful. But actually, that's probably very Hegelian. They are the most powerless. They are the most ignorant, because those who really are in power are the ignorant people. Apollonian Germ making ordinary video in his car, me making video in front of my computer, people like students who dropped out of the educational system and who embark upon a red pill process. Very ordinary people. I will just talk about you, Apollonian Germ, and Stella, and Hyperboreans, and a few others. Those who've had spiritual experiences, namely people from the folk, from the ordinary folk. By going through the process, they recover eventually their lost knowledge, and they realize that it was self-inflicted. Maybe I'm the only one who realized this. Or I don't know if it was conscious, if it's an accident, if it's just a process, but basically the process consists in recovering one's own former knowledge, spiritual, mystical, divine knowledge, and to realize that the globalists, they think that they are in charge, and on an empirical level they are, but actually they do not understand the process, because I understood this 3 years ago, and I talked to you, Apollonian Germ. You think that the globalists at the highest level, they are hermetic, Kabbalistic, whatever. They are Kabbalist. That's a word that whenever people in the right-wing circles, whenever they don't understand something, and something is difficult to understand because something is something else. I made a video about speculative logic, but here I will talk in ordinary language. Whenever there is something weird that people in the right wing, they do not understand. They say, oh, that's got to be Kabbalism, that's the Kabbalah. Or those who are a little bit smarter, they say, that's Hegelian dialectics. That's something that we hear very often here. I'm in a mood to smile, not to laugh, but to smile. Whenever there's a weird process, people, depending on their level of culture, if they are low level intelligence, they call this, oh, that's Kabbalah. When they are a little bit smarter, they say it's Hegelian dialectics. But are people aware that there have been books written officially by Hegel about dialectics, and that Apollonian Germ, the reason why I talk to you is because you have a book, the Hermetic tradition, which basically consists in saying that the philosophy of Hegel is Kabbalah. And you do not like this. I don't blame you, because I have problems with Kabbalah and dialectics as well, because it can be quite negative. But basically, what I'm trying to communicate, and I have failed, basically that you think that the ideology of the globalist is Jewish Kabbalah. I think that the ideology of the globalist, the patriots, the New World Order, the one ideology is the philosophy of Hegel, which is German. But German is not one-sided, it's not abstract Germany, it's concrete Germany. Namely, Germany is so vast on an intellectual level, maybe it's so strong or so so naive, I don't know. I'm in a mood to laugh, but actually it's very difficult. But basically, Germany is I will say something positive, because I have had a good day. I let my mood take the upper hand upon my speech. But basically, Germany is so great that it can include pretty much everything within itself. So that's the ideology that I've been trying to communicate with you, and maybe I got mistaken. But basically, you think that you are, and that we, let us say we are all being manipulated by the globalists. The ideology, not the ideology, the idea that I'm trying to share is that actually the globalists, they have been manipulated, and they are still being manipulated by us. Here I speak about the German community, the spiritual German community. But it's very difficult to understand, because I am not in full control of my mind, and that's why I've been trying to communicate with an other who might partly understand me, but the other is an aspect of myself, so here it's very complicated. But basically, I showed you the process, and you are in the moment of negation, you are the smartest, but you are not smart to the point of understanding that the abstract, the negation, and the concrete, they are three moments of the same logical process. So basically they are one. This is Christian Trinity, maybe. And this works for pretty much everything. Abstract, negation, concrete. Being is abstract, the negation of being is nothing. Nothing and being are one, and the concrete unity of both is das Werden, which is becoming. Something is abstract because it is one-sided. The negation of something is something else. Something and something else. This is abstract negation. They're actually the concrete unity of both is the infinite, das Unendliche, das Für-sich-Sein. This is how the logical process unfolds. I've made a video about speculative logic. Quality is abstract, the negation of quality is quantity, the concrete unity of both is measure, qualitative quantity. In the realm of politics, this is globalism, patriotic nationalist revolt, but actually they are one, because precisely the universal, if it is just the moment of universality, it's not really universal, it's not wirklich, it's one-sided, it's the universality of der Verstand. I will not take 20 minutes to express this. That's why this is my last video, because I will change. I have already changed my method of communication, but nonetheless I've invested so much, I wouldn't say effort, that would be dishonest maybe, but intellectual effort at least, in trying to express this, that yeah, abstract universality is the moment of der Verstand. Negation is skepticism or negative dialectics, like the patriots, they are skeptical about the benefits of globalism, which can be understandable, but the third moment is positive vernünftig. So it's verständig, that is the moment of abstract universality, negative vernünftig, and then positive vernünftig, which is the real universal, and here real means wirklich, namely a universal which is not opposed to the particulars, like globalism is opposed in its abstract moment to all particular countries that it seeks to either replace or make a dependent or dump down or turn into slave countries, whatever. But the vernünftig, positive vernünftig is the unity of both, namely when all countries revolt against globalism, the globalists, they become useless, that they shouldn't be sent to the gulag or wherever. They should just be intelligent people, should say, okay, thank you, you have been just like a useful tool to help us recover our memory and become great again, in a way. Because in case people hadn't noticed, by negating the abstract one-sidedness of globalism, people are recovering their traditional national self in the good sense, the culture, the history, the tradition, the religion, the good aspect, the spiritual, the spirit of the nations is rising, basically. Yeah, that's what I have been trying to communicate. Okay, and here it's very complex, mystical, speculative thinking, but actually Barbara Spectre and the counterpart, I know this because I had a tremendously powerful speculative understanding in 2018, and when I understood this, I understand now, many years later, 4 years later, that one cannot be thought of without the other. And now I will explain the reason why, from my perspective, empirically, the American Constitution is so important, because I am trying to solve problems. And in order to solve most political and even geopolitical problems, one has to be able to talk about what happened with the Austrian painter or the Austrian uncle. And the American Constitution enables, to a relative degree of freedom, to speak about these issues. And basically, I will not develop more, but basically that's, So this is the process. Abstract negation, this is Hegelian, this is speculative, this is mystical, which means unity with the divine. This is speculative logic, very simply put. And I understood a couple of days ago, maybe, that actually I try to ask for help, but knowing that I am the negative, which is evil, it's not fair. But because I am evil, I might use others because I am evil, whatever. But actually, I've understood that I will wage my own spiritual struggle, my own spiritual war against myself, my own stupidity maybe, and against others to try to awaken them. I will share my light as long as I can. If people want my light, if they understand my light, if it can help them, good for them. If they can't, if it's too brilliant, if it's too dark, I don't know, but I am all alone. I know that I am all alone. I have used the knowledge produced by others. That's why I kind of feel like a parasite, because I just borrow ideas from books that have already been written. But now I understand that I will just do things my way. I will do things my way and whatever. But this was an illustration. So now I will switch the table. And I know, because I'm kind of dumb, but I'm smart, a video which will be more than an hour long, you will not take the time to watch the video. So in a sense, because I understand the depth of Nietzschean psychology, I try to be honest by revealing all my knowledge, but I also know that making videos which are too long is kind of being dishonest, because I know that this prevents people from watching them. So I complain about the fact that people do not watch my video, but actually it's because my videos are too long or because my ideas are too complex. So I try to simplify. But I still have work to do because I want to stabilize, so I'm conflicted. It's complicated. It's so complicated. And that's why I wish I could have talked peacefully with an other which might have understood me, but I realize that it's impossible. Because in order for an other to come into existence, there has to be negation, which is evil, etc. I think about this every day. So now I will just share my light and as long as I can, whatever. So I switch the table. Yeah, it's just a more specific illustration. Why is globalism abstract? Because he talks about here it's a citizen of the world, but without any political power. The democratic game is completely rigged. It's controlled. It's fake, basically. So the ideology of globalism, at least in the West, means to say we are all citizens of the world. Namely, we have to put the emphasis upon the universality, which is kind of good. It's good, but the requirement of this abstract globalism is that people, mostly of the Western countries, shall become universal citizens of the world by renouncing completely their particularities, namely by abandoning their ties to any anthropological group, namely to negate their own race, by welcoming people from other races, to negate the history of their country by shaming them or by dumbing them down. That's the uprooted part and the brainwashed part, namely the citizenship, namely the abstract universal community. We are all one global village, we are all the human family, we are all equal, etc. This is the ideology, but it is completely abstract because the conditions, the political, economic, cultural conditions to bring about this universal citizenship, which is actually good because universality is good in a way. So this ideology of universal citizenship, it is implemented by uprooting people, by disconnecting them from blood, soil, traditions, and culture. And this is here very dialectical because the elites try to disconnect them. So people are dialectically programmed to care for what is being taken away from them. That's why to talk about blood and soil, it's kind of dubious, but on the fringes of the far right, it's becoming more and more prevalent. But basically, what the conservative, the politically correct conservative who rebel slightly against globalism, what they think about, they do not talk about blood, they do not talk about soil, they talk vaguely about traditions, not the old traditions, but the more recent, like the traditions and vaguely about culture. But the more radical you dig into the patriotic nationalist revolt, the more the topics are blood, soil, traditions, culture, which is eventually religious traditions, either traditionalism or European paganism for the Europeans, etc. And yeah, so also there's the brainwashing of the elites by media propaganda, the falsification of the sciences, the use of newspeak, the rewriting of history, etc., etc. But the people who revolt against these, I will just list everything. So then there's what I call abstract work, which is a category of Karl Marx. Abstract means a work which is mechanistic. For industrialization is the replacement of craftsmanship by industry, factories. It's not globalism strictly speaking, but it has been in tune, in effect for the past couple of centuries. But basically, the products are more and more cheap. The division of labor is more and more pronounced, which brings dependence, interdependence between all the countries, which creates geopolitical conflicts and problems. Everything is interdependent. The Western countries have lost their ability to sustain themselves economically on an industrial level. The commodities which are being produced are more and more useless and worthless in a sense. It's pure, how do you call this? ostentatious consumption. You need to show off. It's not really useful. It's kind of useless. That's what I would Nike shoes and Coca-Cola. It's basically it's very productive. Globalism is very, and capitalism in a sense is very productive in terms of creation of wealth, but it produces mostly garbage. This is what Karl Marx knew. So in a sense, Karl Marx was right. Not only the conditions of work are more and more abstract for the worker, the bureaucrats, their job is completely stupid. The workers in the factories, their job is stupid. It's worthless. Everything is automated. There is robotization. The commodities, the quality and quantity are conceptually united. But basically, because commodities which are not of good quality, they do not last very long. They break easily, etc., etc. So the rise of countless garbage, useless commodities, waste, etc., etc. This is what the leftists revolt against. The brainwashing, it's mostly the right, and the uprooted aspect, this is mostly the right. And then there is the big brother type of government, technological surveillance, and a complete dependence on the system. And here, both the left and the right revolt. So basically, the abstract citizenship, the ideology of we are all citizens of the global village, it is abstract because it has not solved all these contradictions. But if all peoples, people here is important, it's all peoples, not all people, all peoples. I know enough about the English language, maybe sometimes I make dubious, stupid mistakes, but here I understand. So if people from the Western countries and even African countries, which are on the economically dependent on the West, but it's more prevalent in the West because globalism is more firmly implemented in the West for reasons that you know about Apollonian Germ, I know about as well. But basically, the Western people, they revolt against this abstraction. But if they all revolt, I mean, if all the Western countries and most countries in the world, they become in touch with their traditions, their culture, their blood and soil, they reinstitute truth or intelligibility in the sciences, in the alternative media. They restore language. They rewrite history, not to falsify, but to reestablish a true sense of history. And this is what intellectuals or influencers or content creators on YouTube or journalists, independent journalists, that's what they have been doing for the past 10 or 15 years. Their entire life is dedicated to fighting against the nonsense of the media, which is not always nonsense, but to fight against the falsification of sciences, to restore ordinary, meaningful language. So these people, they complain about abstract globalism because of all the negative aspects, but they themselves are positive, but they are positive only in relation to the negative. So there are many hundreds, thousands of public speakers in the West whose entire life consists in struggling against the system. So it gives kind of meaning to their life, and they are admired. They have many followers. Jordan Peterson. I talk about Peterson a lot because he's kind of the best, how do you call this in English, the most prominent guy in town as of now. He has a lot of success because he denounces kind of the brainwashing aspect. He's not much into the uprooted aspect, but he denounces the brainwashing aspect. Someone like David Graeber, an older Marxist, they find meaning in life by revolting against abstract work, the commodification of life. Well, there are people who battle against Big Brother. It's not always as pleasant as the other aspects, but and the uprooted, all the far-right communities, they find meaning. They decide to have children because they feel that the white race is threatened, so they bring children into the world because of the threat of white extinction. They connect with their roots, with their traditions. They learn about their mythology. They learn about how to become more sustainable. So all these people, they fight against the negative, but actually their life is kind of positive. And if I switch the table, these people, they are positive, although in the logical process they are the negative. And these people, they are negative with all the consequences of the policy, but actually they are they are the negative which enable the positive to be brought into being, whatever. So this is logically structured in a way. And here, the negation, that's the revolt, the red pill, the conspiracy theories, and the rise of patriotism and nationalism. But all these people, and here I've made lists, I can list the people of the alt-right, the alt-right, the Republican MAGA crowd, the Brexit, the pagan community, the white nationalist movement, the traditionalists. All these people, they exist because of the globalist. The globalist is the Grund, the fundamental ground of the existence of these people. Ground and existence, they are diverse but nonetheless united. These are logical determinations. And here I will not go, I could go into even further, but basically this is logically determined. That's why I've spent 2.5 years of my life studying Hegel's logic, because that's the problem of the logic of Hegel, which is the logic of God. And that's why my videos are so complex maybe to understand, and my political stances are so ambiguous, because actually it's kind of very simple, but it's also very difficult. Here I talk to Apollonian Germ, and the people who Apollonian Germ. Here I am in a mood to speak very calmly. I am attracted by you. Attraction is logical determination, so it's not emotionally charged. It's just I am attracted because I like your content. I cannot deny this. You are intelligent. You speak well. You talk about topics which are interesting to me. You are very intelligent. So I like your content. And if you or the people who follow you hear this, they may say, oh, he likes your content, he must be your friend. But the problem, the reason why I have fallen partly into insanity and why I might become even more insane is because all the things that I appreciate about you, and I could say this about Caroline also, all the aspects of Caroline or you that I love, they exist only because of all the aspects of the globalist that I don't like. But because when I'm smart, I understand that what I like only exists because of what I don't like, I kind of have to make peace with what I don't like, namely the globalist. And that's what I understood over the past few years, namely that, of course, if I am in my one-sided self, I would like to be on your side. But when I am smart, I understand that there are no sides. Or there are sides, but there are only moments, that everything that I love about that's why I'm not, I don't know really how to define myself, but I'm not really on the side of the patriotic nationalist people, because I understand that they exist only because of the globalist. I try to be concrete beyond both sides, but eventually I am emotionally and psychologically partly unstable. But it's very difficult, because the Grund, the reason for being of what on an abstract level I love, and what is abstract is kind of false in a Hegelian view, the reason for being of the people that I love in the internet community, Stella, you, Caroline, Hyperborean, Varg and Marie and Forgotten Woods, etc., the people with whom I've had spiritual experiences, the reason why I love them is because of their content, their intelligence, their work, and also kind of their personality. But their personality and their work and their content has been made manifest, that's another logical determination, Erscheinung, because of their revolt against the globalist. But without the globalist, you would not exist, Apollonian Germ. You would be just a red bearded guy driving trucks. You would be insignificant from the perspective of geopolitics. There are probably many red bearded truck drivers who have no knowledge of politics and who might be important in some other regards. I can only guess. But basically what I'm trying to say after almost an hour video is that Apollonian Germ, if there were no globalists, you would be a random individual person, and I would never have heard about you. And what I like about you, and I cannot deny that there are really aspects that I like and that I even admire. I cannot deny this, but they only exist, and here the word existence, it's not Dasein, it's really existence. Whatever exists has a ground, a reason for being, a fundamental cause from where it comes from. So your reason for being, Apollonian Germ, is the globalist. That's why you are a globalist. Although you are not, but you are what you are not, and this unity of both is a concrete, speculative, Hegelian unity. And here I try to stand in the path of the concrete, namely to understand the unity of both sides, but it's very difficult. Because in my day-to-day life, I am one-sided in a way. And yeah. That's why, whatever you have been uncovering about the globalists, and here I talk about you and Caroline because you two are the people that I've followed the most over the past few months, and you two are those that have spent the most time of your life investigating about the globalist. But I try to think in a concrete, speculative way. All the dirty laundry, all the dirty files that you and Caroline have been uncovering about the globalist, they are kind of an aspect of myself. They are the abstract moment, and you are the negative, and I am the concrete unity of both. So I kind of appreciate your work, your honesty, etc., but I have a problem with you, not on a personal level, but on a conceptual level, because you are the individual who happens to know the most about the globalists, so they are an aspect of me, so you kind of remind me of my ugly aspects. I have to learn to deal with that. You are the mirror of the globalists, and I am, they are also my mirror, and you are my mirror, so it's a mirror game, but what I see in the mirror is not always pleasant, and sometimes it's really unpleasant, so that's why I cannot say that I am your friend, although at some level I might be, but because you are kind of reminding me of my own ugliness, my own darkness, my own evil in a way. You are not the only one, but you are the most intelligent. So that's why I have problems with you, although it's very difficult, okay? It's very difficult. But you could say the same as well. You could say it's very difficult. The position that I am in, you could say, I'm in a position very difficult because of you. And I might disagree, but you would be right. So that's problematic. Whatever. So yeah, now I will switch the board again. This revolt. But basically, here I'm talking to an American audience. The movement Abstract Negation Concrete. Maybe God, the real God, the most intelligent. I hear a little bit of trash talking about the Americans. Maybe the real God thought at some moment in the past or in the future, said, those Americans, they think that they are smart, but actually they are kind of dumb. So we will make a slogan which will hold in 4 words, make America great again. This will be a way of teaching them Hegelian dialectics and Hegelian logic, namely America in the past, in the 1950s, was thought to be great, but actually it's negated itself. So make America great again is the negative, which would like, or the negation which would like to go back to the first moment, but actually that's naive thinking. The people who say, okay, let's go back to the 1950s, they do not realize that the reason why America fell, and it's a very Christian story, is because America was abstract, because there were problems in the 1950s. It's not a conspiracy. Of course, there are conspirators and schemers and manipulators and secret societies and elites, etc. in the 1950s and 60s, etc. But the reason why the Americans let themselves be manipulated in the 1950s and 60s, the reason why they unconsciously accepted to fall into the modern problems of America is because it was abstract. Namely, America in the 1950s, it was good for white people, but blacks were discriminated against, and there really was a problem with the patriarchy. I'm not going to defend a feminist here, but simply that men who allow their women or their daughters to rebel against them, there's a problem. So there were problems in the 1950s in America, and of course it was the negation, namely the decline of America, economic, etc., over the past 50 or 60 years. Of course, it's problematic, but the reason why America fell is because it was abstract, and now trying to go back to the first moment to make America great again, you cannot find good old America, because it will have been mediated by the fall, here I talk in Christian language, by the negative moment. So what can be made is concrete America, namely a real greatness, hopefully. That's the Christian Trinity: abstraction, negation, concrete, in a way. And here I will just briefly talk about America. The people who say make America great again, they go on the same path of the red pill. They gather knowledge, namely to try to explain why America fell. Because of feminism, because of the news, the television, the manipulation, because of hedonism, because of the scheming of the left, because of the infiltration of communists, because of the you-know-who's, whatever. They find countless reasons, which are partly true but also partly false, because they are only partial, but the totality of all the reasons bring about the knowledge, and it enables the people who revolt to acquire knowledge and understanding, and to produce universal knowledge, eventually. Yeah, that's the story, basically. So one could say, make globalism great again, because globalism it's not supposed to be a tiny elite ruling over a mass of degraded, dumbed down slaves under technological surveillance, with police and military everywhere controlling everything. That would be the Big Brother type of government. But to make globalism great again, if it can be achieved, is basically where all people of the world could enjoy their culture, their traditions in a universal way, namely not one against the other, but all being moments of the same particularized universality. This is the real, concrete universality. Wirklich. Real here means wirklich. So, yeah. And here, conspiracy theories. So the revolt, the negative revolt against the abstraction, this is where we find conspiracy theorists. And now I will read Hegel. I said I wouldn't, but the really important passages, because I still try to be rigorous. I will read in German. I understand Hegel. I don't need to read Hegel any longer, but it's simply that to make sure that the people to try to establish reputation or credit, whatever. Where is it? Yeah. Also, it's in the preface. I read in German, but I translate in real time in English. The living substance. The substance, basically, it's the totality of being. It's simply the totality of being. This is the Spinozian definition of God, basically. The living substance is, furthermore, the being, which in truth is subject, which in truth is wirklich. It cannot be translated. It's actual, concrete. Only insofar as it is the movement of sich selbst setzen, setting itself. Sich selbst means oneself, itself, myself. Setzen means to set.
oder die Vermittlung des sich anders werden, or the mediation of becoming another to the self. That's why the German language is important. Sich selbst setzen oder die Vermittlung des sich anders werdens. Mit sich selbst, so the becoming other for oneself with oneself. Basically, the mediation of self with the self, the alienation of the self. The substance is as subject the simple, pure negativity, which means the division of what is simple, or the Verdopplung, namely the doubling, to double what is simple, which is the Verschiedenheit of this indifferent unity in a way. To bring about diversity within unity and the opposition, and only this widerherstellende Gleichheit. This is important. Only this to widerherstellen means to reinstitute, to reestablish, to reset. Widerherstellende Gleichheit means to reestablish equality. So the process consists in reestablishing equality with self. This is spirit. This is the process of spirit. Oder die Reflexion im Anderssein in sich selbst. Oder the reflection of being another in oneself. Nicht eine ursprüngliche Einheit als solche oder unmittelbar als solche. So, basically, the process of spirit is not immediate, ursprüngliche mean originary or primordial. It's not a primordial unity. People are nostalgic of the Golden Age or the Garden of Eden or the 1950s or whatever. It's not a primordial unity. It is the process of wiederherstellen, re-establishing after having negated this abstract unity. This is negation, and the process, the intellectual and spiritual life of the West, which is the world actually, it's not only in the West, but mostly, but it's in the world at large, consists in re-establishing self-identity. Namely that the people, the ignorant people, have to be reminded and to remember, that's what I'm trying to do, but yeah, that they are ignorant because they have not yet re-established their own spiritual identity, their equality with self, and that the stupidity of the people is a product of self-inflicted stupidity. Not by the globalists, but by the people. Here it's really complex because chronology, whatever, but basically that's, yeah. And another way, the movement of des Seienden, the movement of what is, consists in a one-sided aspect to become an other to itself and to have itself as its own immanent content, and to make itself a moment and to simplify itself to a determinacy. In such a movement, the negativity is the differentiation and the setting of the Dasein. In the return in itself is the becoming of der bestimmte Einfachheit, the determined simplicity. Yeah, that's what I could say, basically. Plato, that's the story of the soul which has lost its memory. This is what I talked about in PKD. This is the story of the fall in the Bible. This is the story of Odin falling from Yggdrasil. We are walking in shapes. This is a system of test. This is the story of Evola revolting against the modern world and pop culture. I will not sing. I did this in 1 or 2 videos, but actually I won't. I will just put the link. But eventually it's Eminem. He made songs, Kings Never Die, Evanescence, Bring Me to Life, 50 Cent, it's Still Will, Paramore, it's Decode, big pun, it's brave in the heart, etc., etc. That's just a view, 1 hour and 10 minutes, of the entire intellectual, spiritual, political, geopolitical life of the West. And I know myself, when I am inspired, to be kind of the new world order that I am trying to bring about. But this is maybe, I wanted to talk about personal aspects, but I won't. Basically, Apollonian Germ, my problems, all my problems, basically, they arise from the fact that in order to experience the positive in life, love, one might say, there has to be separation, negation, a negative moment, a negative aspect, that which we call evil. And this knowledge that in order to experience love, there has to be evil, it makes me suffer, it kind of drives me insane, and yeah, I will conclude on this. I will not talk about personal, if I have the opportunity. My behavior is an illustration of all the problems that I suffer from. But basically, this is the idea, and here it's an idea in the Hegelian sense, because it is the subject which is in unity with the object, although they are distinct. This is the idea that I have tried to share. Yeah. And now I intend to continue my series of videos about the revelation, the apocalypse, on another channel, Eternal Light. I may put the link in the description. I will not post the video tonight. I still have work to do. But I will just conclude by one personal remark. I have been kind of angry against you, Apollonian Germ, because you didn't watch my videos, but actually I reread my own writings, and I said that I should not expect from others what I do not expect from myself first, and I started to rewatch my own videos. I took the time to rewatch some of them. Actually, they were pretty, I would say it's pretty good, but pretty okay. I thought that everything I produced was garbage, but even some of my mediocre video, they are still okay intellectually, so I kind of... that's why now I have had a change of shift, which I always do. I start to understand that I will not expect help from others because they won't help me. Or maybe they will, but I will refuse their help because I may be stupid, I don't know. But I will just... I will promote my own view because no one else does, basically. So that's why I grant myself... I kind of feel a little bit guilty, but also not completely. I grant myself a few hours a day, as long as I can enjoy a relatively peaceful days, to work on my own documents, improve my own documents, because no one else does this. As of now, maybe no one will ever do this. So I will still try to share my knowledge while remaining as balanced and stable as possible. But I've granted myself the moral right to work on my own view, because if it's a mistake, I make countless mistakes. That's one of my problems. Everything I do is a mistake, which is logically impossible. To everything, it's impossible to do everything wrong. Basically, it's impossible logically, because if there is right, there is wrong. If there is wrong, there is right. So yeah, but yeah. Apollonian Germ, until whatever end, you are the most intelligent individual outside of myself in the realm of geopolitics, politics, objective of Geist, as a man, because I kind of, maybe Stella is more intelligent, but she's female, and masculine intelligence is kind of different, but maybe it's more more intelligent, but in a different way. So basically, you are the most intelligent. I cannot deny this, but I deluded myself because I overestimated completely the intelligence of others. I'm not saying that they are dumb, because they are parts of me in a way, but I did not realize how smart I could be because I experienced myself as being stupid, because I do not understand, because I fail, because I make mistakes, because I borrow all my ideas from others. These are my problems. I will not delve too long into the personal aspect, but basically that's what I had to say. So now I will keep working for a few hours, and I will see tomorrow, whatever.